The first thing Ada Pike heard at Last Chance Ranch was a man saying the place could not afford another mouth. She was still sitting on the wagon bench with her carpet bag in her lap when the words drifted from the open cookhouse door. "We've got 12 hands, thin cattle, flour low enough to count, and a note due in 6 weeks. Now Morgan sends for a cook?" Ada kept her eyes on the yard. It was a hard yard, swept clean by wind and work. A pump stood near the well. Saddles hung on the corral fence. Beyond the barn, cattle moved like brown thoughts across pale grass. The ranch house was larger than she expected, though not grand, and the cookhouse smoked at the chimney in a way that said the stove drew poorly. She had traveled 2 days for this position. She had agreed to lower pay because the letter said board was included. She had not expected welcome. Women hired to cook for ranches were rarely welcomed. They were judged by biscuits first, coffee second, and patience every hour after. But there was a difference between being judged and being counted as a burden before she climbed down. The wagon driver cleared his throat. "Miss Pike?" "I heard. Want me to wait?" Ada looked at the cookhouse door. "No. If they cannot afford another mouth, they should be grateful I brought 2 hands." She stepped down. Inside, the cookhouse went quiet. 4 men stood near the long table. One was young enough to look guilty immediately. Another stared at his boots. A third, broad and red-faced, held a tin cup halfway to his mouth. The 4th man stood by the stove, sleeves rolled, dark hair damp at the temples, one hand wrapped in a towel. He was not the man who had spoken. Ada knew that because his face showed not surprise at being overheard, but annoyance that someone else had been careless enough to say it aloud. "Miss Pike," he said, "I'm Reed Morgan." "Owner, then." Ada set down her carpet bag. "Mr. Morgan?" The red-faced man recovered first. "Nobody meant offense." "That is fortunate," Ada said. "They would be ashamed to waste offense before supper." The young hand coughed to hide a laugh. Reed Morgan looked at the red-faced man. "Calhoun, get the trunk." "I can get it," Ada said. "I'm sure you can. He can still carry what his mouth earned." Calhoun went redder and left. Reed nodded toward the stove. "The last cook left 3 days ago. Breakfast has been whatever men can burn and still swallow. The pantry is yours to inspect. Terms are as written." "And if the ranch cannot afford another mouth?" He met her eyes. "Then the ranch had better learn what the mouth can do." That was not an apology, but it was close enough to begin. Ada unpacked in the small room behind the pantry. It held a cot, a peg, a cracked mirror, and a shelf where some earlier cook had left 2 buttons, a bent hairpin, and a playing card. The card was the Queen of Diamonds. Ada put it in the drawer face down. A woman did not need a ranch full of men making jokes about queens before she had sharpened her knives. Then she inspected the kitchen. By noon, she understood 3 things. The stove smoked because the flue had not been cleared. The flour barrel was not merely low, it had been scraped, and the supply ledger made no sense. Ada had cooked in hotels, boarding houses, mining camps, and one railway crew where men complained about beans until she asked whether they preferred hunger seasoned differently. Food was never just food in such places. It was morale, mathematics, discipline, and truth. A kitchen ledger told a story if a person knew how to read appetite against purchase. Last Chance Ranch was buying enough flour, coffee, sugar, beans, salt pork, and oats to feed 18 men. It was receiving enough to feed 10. The difference had been hidden by blaming weather, distance, spoilage, and the appetite of men who did hard work. That might fool an owner who spent his days with cattle and banks. It would not fool a woman who knew how long a 100-pound sack lasted when 12 men ate biscuits twice a day. At supper, Ada served beans with onions, cornbread from the last usable meal, coffee strong enough to make the room respectful, and no complaint. Men ate as if manners had arrived with hunger. Calhoun took 3 helpings and kept his eyes lowered. Reed waited until the others left before speaking. "You found the pantry." "I found where the pantry should have been." He set his cup down. "How bad?" "If tomorrow's supply wagon comes light, you'll be eating hope by Sunday." He leaned back slowly. "I paid for a full load." "Then we should see whether a full load arrives." "We?" Ada wiped the table. "If I am expected to feed this ranch, I should be present when my ingredients appear." "Fair." The next morning, she stood beside Reed when the supply wagon rolled in from Harlan's Mercantile. The driver, a narrow man named Vest, climbed down with a cheerful complaint about roads, dust, and how ranchmen ate like threshing machines. He produced the invoice with a flourish. Ada took it before Reed could. Vest blinked. "Man?" "You brought kitchen goods. I am the kitchen." Reed said nothing, which she appreciated.
The invoice listed 2 sacks flour, 1 sack beans, 20 pounds coffee, 20 pounds sugar, salt, baking powder, lard, and cured pork. Ada counted the sacks. She weighed the coffee with the scale from the cookhouse. She opened the flour and pressed her hand into it. "This sack has been opened." Vest laughed. "Sacks shift." "Sacks do not untie themselves neatly and retie with a different knot." The yard quieted. Ranch hands paused near the corral. Calhoun appeared by the barn door. Vest's smile stiffened. "Maybe Harlan checked it." "Then Harlan can explain why a 100-pound sack weighs 78. Reed looked at the driver. Vest raised both hands. "I haul what I'm given." "Then haul this back," Ada said, "and bring what was paid for." The driver looked to Reed, perhaps expecting the owner to soften the woman. Reed only said, "You heard her." By dinner, the town knew Last Chance Ranch had hired a cook who weighed flour in the yard. By supper, the story had improved. She had accused the Mercantile of theft, called the driver a liar, and threatened to starve 12 men in the name of arithmetic. Ada heard the last version from the young hand, Toby, who repeated it with admiration he tried to disguise. "I did not threaten to starve anyone," she said. "No, ma'am. And admiration is not a reason to burn biscuits." Toby looked at the pan in horror. She saved half. The replacement supplies came at dusk, full weight and sour-faced. Harlan himself did not come. That interested Ada. 2 days passed. The pantry looked better. The men ate better. The cookhouse stove stopped smoking after Reed cleared the flue himself, though he emerged so covered in soot that Ada gave him a basin outside and told him no man carrying that much chimney was crossing her clean floor. He laughed then. It was brief, unguarded, and gone quickly, but Ada heard the difference. Reed Morgan was not a cold man. He was a tired one. His ranch was named Last Chance because his father had bought it after losing 2 smaller places to bad seasons, and the name had become less joke and more prophecy each year. Reed carried the place like a sack that could not be set down because too many people were standing under it. She learned this in pieces. A bank letter left open by mistake. The way he counted cattle twice when once would do. The way he ate last, not from politeness but from habit. The way he looked at the empty chair at the end of the table and never sat there. On the 4th evening, Ada found the ranch account book under a stack of feed receipts. She did not open it. She had rules about other people's ledgers. Reed entered as she was setting it aside. "You can look," he said.
I was not going to.
I know.
Then why offer?
Because you'll find what I missed faster than I will.
That kind of trust, offered plainly, was more dangerous than compliment. Ada sat at the table and opened the book.
The ranch was bleeding money in small cuts. Not dramatic losses, not foolish purchases. Just enough overcharge on feed, short wait on flour, inflated repair, extra transport, missing credit on hides, delayed payment on cattle sold through Harlan's cousin. Each mark could be explained. Together, they leaned in one direction, toward Harlan's mercantile. How long has Harlan supplied the ranch? Ada asked.
Since my father's time.
That is not an answer that protects you.
No.
Does he hold the note?
He bought part of it from the bank last winter.
There it was.
If last chance failed, Harlan did not merely lose a customer. He gained leverage over land, cattle, and the only good well within 6 miles of the North Road. Ada turned another page.
Who checks deliveries when you are on the range?
Calhoun. The name settled between them. Calhoun, the red-faced man who said the ranch could not afford another mouth. Calhoun, who had worked there 7 years.
Calhoun, who ate enough for 2 and looked away whenever supplies were counted. Reed's face hardened, then closed.
Don't decide yet, Ada said.
You think I want to?
I think tired men prefer one large answer to 20 small ones. He looked at her then, and the hard part of his expression eased. You're not gentle. Gentle is for bread dough. Even then, only at the right stage. He looked as if he wanted to laugh and could not quite afford it. The next supply day, Ada set a trap with coffee. She told Vest, the driver, loudly and in front of 3 hands, that the ranch was short on coffee again, and she intended to order double next week. Then she wrote a false order for 30 pounds of Arbuckle beans and sealed it in an envelope for Harlan. The real order, written separately and carried by Toby to a different trader in Millbend, requested only 10. If the false coffee appeared on Harlan's invoice, he had opened the order and filled it.
If less than 30 arrived, someone shortened it before delivery.
If 30 arrived but the ranch was charged for 40, the fraud wore a different coat. Reed watched her write both orders. You have done this before, he said. A hotel manager once claimed guests ate 20 pounds of sugar in 3 days. They had not. What happened? His wife opened a candy stall. Reed stared at her. With hotel sugar. This time he did laugh, softly. The trap worked better than Ada expected, and worse than Reed hoped. Harlan's invoice listed 30 pounds of coffee. The wagon delivered 20. The sack had been opened and stitched again with thread from the ranch tack room. Not Harlan's thread. Ranch thread. Ada carried it to Reed without speaking. He rubbed the stitched seam between thumb and forefinger. Calhoun. Likely. Why? Men rarely steal flour because they love flour. Reed wanted to confront Calhoun at once.
Ada saw it in the way his hand closed around the sack, in the way his shoulders set, in the way 7 years of trust tried to become one clean answer before the day ended. Not yet, she said. He looked at her. You said likely. Likely is a door. Proof is the room. You think he will take more? I think whoever is using him will expect him to. That evening, Ada changed the pantry routine. She did it openly, as if she were merely bringing order to a neglected kitchen. She marked flour levels with a pencil line inside the barrel. She counted coffee tins in front of Toby. She wrote sugar weight on a slate near the shelf. She asked Calhoun to fetch salt pork from the smokehouse and thanked him pleasantly when he did, which seemed to worry him more than accusation would have. The next morning, she placed a small twist of blue thread through the stitch on the coffee sack, and tied it in a knot only she would recognize. Then she told no one except Reed. "That is sewing," he said. "That is evidence wearing sewing." "I am learning. Kitchens are more dangerous than corrals." "Only to men who mishandle them." The coffee sack vanished from its usual place before noon. It returned by supper, lighter by 5 pounds and restitched with brown thread over the blue. The person who took it had not seen the blue thread because they were watching the seam from the outside. Ada cut the stitch open in front of Reed and Toby. The blue knot fell into her palm. Toby whispered, "You will be quiet," Ada said, not unkindly, "until we know where it went." The answer came from the bunkhouse, not hidden under a mattress, not dramatically buried. It sat in a wooden crate beneath Calhoun's spare blanket, alongside 2 sacks of flour, 4 tins of coffee, 3 plugs of tobacco, and a folded note from Harlan's Mercantile listing amounts against a private debt. Reed stood in the bunkhouse doorway and looked older by 10 years. Ada did not touch his arm. She wanted to. Instead, she let him have the dignity of anger without witness pressed too close. "This is not all for him," she said. "No." "Then we ask where the rest went." "Ask?" "If you shout, he will defend himself. If you ask, he may explain Harlan." Reed took a breath. "You are very hard on honest temper." "Honest temper burns bread as surely as foolish temper." He gave her a look then, not quite gratitude, not quite surrender, but close to both. That evening, Reed called Calhoun into the office. Ada was not present. She did not need to be. She stood in the cookhouse kneading dough while voices stayed low across the yard. Low voices can carry more weight than shouting. After 20 minutes, Calhoun came out pale and angry, mounted his horse, and rode toward town. Reed entered the cookhouse after dark. "He says Harlan made him do it." Ada dusted flour from her hands. "How?" "Debt, cards, credit at the Mercantile. Harlan told him the ranch would fail anyway, said nobody would miss a few pounds before the bank took it." "Do you believe him?" "I believe some, not all." "That is usually where truth sits." Reed sank onto the bench. 7 years. Ada put coffee in front of him. "People can work beside you and still choose themselves." "You say that like you know." She did. Her late brother had sold part of their mother's boarding house accounts before Ada discovered it. He had cried, apologized, promised, and left her to repair the damage while he found a new town where nobody knew his arithmetic. Family hurt differently because people expected kinship to keep better books than strangers. She did not tell Reed all of that, not then. She said, "I know kitchens. They teach you what hunger excuses and what it reveals." Reed wrapped both hands around the cup. "What does it reveal about me?" "You trusted habit after it stopped earning trust." He took that without flinching. "And about you?" he asked. "I trust ledgers before charm." "Is that why you didn't trust me?" "I did not know you." "And now?" Ada looked at him, at the soot still faint near his hairline from clearing the flu, at the tired lines beside his mouth, at the way he sat in her kitchen as if every word she spoke deserved a place at the table. "Now I know more." The trouble should have ended with Calhoun. It did not. 3 days later, Harlan filed notice on the note. He claimed Last Chance Ranch was unstable, its internal theft proving poor management. He demanded full payment within 30 days or transfer of the north pasture and well rights as settlement. The notice arrived by courier at breakfast, and every man at the table knew before Reed folded the paper. The ranch went quiet. Not hopeless quiet, worse, counting quiet. Men calculating whether loyalty fed horses, whether another ranch would hire before winter, whether a place named Last Chance had finally been honest about itself. Ada took the paper from Reed's hand. "May I?" He nodded. She read the notice, then read it again. Harlan's mistake was not greed. Greed alone made men careful. His mistake was impatience. He had moved before knowing exactly what Calhoun had confessed and what Ada could prove. "We need every invoice for 2 years," she said. Reed stood. "I'll get them. And every hide sale, cattle receipt, feed order, blacksmith bill, and bank notice." Toby raised his hand halfway, then seemed to remember he was not in school. "Ma'am, you want help?" Ada looked around the table. 12 men, some ashamed they had doubted her, some frightened, all hungry in more ways than one. "Yes," she said, "but wash first. Dirty hands and paper make enemies." For 2 days, the cookhouse became an office between meals. Ada hung string from wall to wall and pinned receipts by month. Toby copied dates. The blacksmith came to confirm which repairs were real. Vest, the supply driver, arrived in terror and left with relief after admitting where Calhoun had taken sacks from the wagon and which invoices Harlan changed after delivery. Mrs. Greer, from the stage station, confirmed Harlan had sold ranch flour under his own label during 2 shortages in town. Reed moved through it all like a man watching a map of betrayal form on his kitchen wall. Ada kept feeding everyone. That mattered. Men with full plates could face uglier facts. Coffee kept hot became courage by another name. Bread rising in pans gave the room a future smell. Even when Harlan's numbers looked worst, the cookhouse did not feel like defeat. It felt like work. On the 3rd night, Reed found Ada alone at the table after the others left. "You should sleep," he said. "So should you." "I own the worry." "Not exclusively." He sat across from her. "Ada." It was the first time he used her given name without Miss Pike in front of it. She kept her eyes on the ledger. "If this fails," he said, "I can pay your wages through the month." "This is not the moment to be noble." "It is the moment to be honest." "Then be more honest. Are you telling me so I can leave before the roof falls?" He looked down. "Yes." That answer hurt because it respected her. "I have left places before roofs fell," Ada said. "Sometimes it was wise. Sometimes it was cowardice with a clean dress." "This is not your fight." I dislike that sentence. "Why?" "Because people use it when they want help without owing anything, or when they want to deny help before it costs them pride. Which one are you doing?" Reed looked at her for a long moment. "The second." "Then stop." He breathed out slowly, almost a laugh, almost surrender. "Yes, ma'am." The hearing took place at the bank in Mill Bend. Harlan came in a black coat, smelling faintly of bay rum and confidence. Calhoun came too, pale as curdled milk. Reed came with Ada, Toby, Vest, Mrs. Greer, and a crate full of paper. The banker, Mr. Ellery, looked offended that ranch trouble had entered his carpeted room. Harlan spoke first. He described overdue obligations, mismanagement, internal loss, and his generous willingness to accept land instead of forcing full foreclosure. He made the taking of a ranch sound like a service performed under emotional strain. Then Ada stood. Harlan smiled at the banker. "The cook?" "Yes," Ada said. "The cook." She placed the first invoice on the table. "A ranch kitchen is counted every day. Men can argue over cattle weight and weather, but flour has a simpler habit. It arrives, it is used, and when the amount on paper does not match biscuits on plates, someone is lying." Mr. Ellery leaned back. Miss Pike." "Miss Pike, this is a banking matter." "Then you will appreciate figures." She gave him figures, not all at once,
That would have let him dismiss her as emotional with too much paper. She started with 1 month. Paid flour, delivered flour, missing flour. Then coffee, then beans, then feed, then transport. Each line was confirmed by witness or receipt. Harlan's face stayed pleasant through the first page, strained through the second, and colorless by the fifth. Vest confirmed altered deliveries. Mrs. Greer confirmed resale of marked sacks. Calhoun, with eyes on the floor, confirmed he had removed goods under Harlan's instruction against debt. Harlan finally spoke sharply. "A dishonest ranch hand accuses me to save himself." Ada turned to the banker. "That would be easier to believe if Mr. Harlan had not charged the ranch for the stolen goods after selling them elsewhere." She placed Mrs. Greer's receipts beside Harlan's invoices. Same dates, same goods. 2 payments. 1 sack of flour cannot be honestly eaten in 2 places. Mr. Ellery reached for the receipts with the reluctance of a man discovering arithmetic had brought mud onto his carpet. "There may be errors," he said. "There are," Ada answered. "That is why we brought them." She opened the second folder. This one was not kitchen supplies. It was hides, salted hides shipped from Last Chance after winter processing, credited through Harlan's cousin in Mill Bend. The ranch account showed low-grade deductions on almost every lot. Ada had never sold hides, but she knew grading language when it appeared too conveniently. Too thin, poor cure, weather-marked, reduced value. Each phrase had trimmed the ranch credit by a few dollars. "I asked Mr. Vale at the tannery to inspect the receiving marks," she said. Reed looked at her sharply. He had not known this part. She had sent Toby to ask quietly, and Toby had returned with a letter folded so many times it looked nervous. Ada placed the tannery statement on the table. "The hides were received as sound. The deductions were added after sale credit, not before." Harlan's chair scraped. Mr. Ellery's face finally lost its patience. "Mr. Harlan." Harlan lifted one hand. "A clerk's mistake." "Repeated over 8 shipments?" Ada asked. The banker read the statement. Calhoun stared at the floor. Reed stared at Ada as if he were seeing not a cook, not even a bookkeeper, but the shape of every small theft the ranch had been too tired to name. Ada softened her voice, but not the point. Last Chance was not failing because the land could not carry it. It was failing because every road out of the ranch had a hand taking something from the wagon. The room fell still. Reed said nothing. He did not need to. Ada had not rescued him from the hearing. She had brought the kitchen with her and let it speak. By the end, Mr. Ellery suspended Harlan's claim pending review. Within a week, the note was recalculated. Harlan did not go to jail. Stories like this did not always end with dramatic punishment. But he lost the bank's confidence, the ranch account, the stage station account, and the privilege of being believed before others spoke. That was punishment enough to make his store windows look smaller. Last Chance Ranch did not become rich, but it stopped bleeding. Reed paid off part of the note with corrected credits. Ada renegotiated supply terms with Mill Bend traders, who learned quickly that she weighed goods before conversation. Toby became official storehouse clerk because he wrote neatly and feared her enough to count twice. Calhoun left the territory. Nobody spoke of him much. The ranch hands changed too. They still teased, men do, but not at the table until Ada sat, and not about mouths the ranch could not afford. They knew better. Her cooking did feed them, but her counting had kept the roof over every plate. Ada made one more change before she agreed to anything permanent. She called it the storehouse rule. Every man who took goods from the storehouse wrote his name, the date, and the purpose. Every wagon leaving for town carried a copy of the order. Every invoice waited until the goods were weighed and signed by 2 people, one from the yard and one from the kitchen. The men grumbled for 3 days, then discovered the rule protected them from blame as much as it protected the ranch from loss. Toby liked the rule most. He stood at the storehouse door with a pencil behind his ear and the severe expression of a clerk twice his age. "You are enjoying authority," Ada told him. "No, ma'am," he said, enjoying it very much. The first test came with oats. Mill Bend Traders sent a wagon short by 1 sack, and the driver insisted he had loaded correctly. Under the old way, the missing sack would have become another argument folded into dust. Under Ada's way, Toby had the order copy, Reed had the yard count, and Ada had the scale note. The driver found the missing sack at the previous stop before sundown and returned it with an apology. The men stopped grumbling after that. Reed watched the system take hold with a mixture of relief and humility. "I thought trust meant not checking," he told Ada one evening. "That is a common and expensive mistake. What does trust mean then? That honest people do not fear a fair count." He leaned against the storehouse door. "You should write that on the wall." "I may." She did. In small letters above the ledger shelf where every man signing out coffee or nails had to see it. Mr. Ellery came back in person before summer. Bankers rarely rode out to ranches unless money had made them curious. He arrived in a clean buggy, stepped around the mud as if it had been placed there to insult him, and asked to review the new supply records. Reed brought him to the cookhouse. Ada did not move her bread dough from the table. "You keep ranch accounts here?" Ellery asked. "The ranch eats here," Ada said. He reviewed the storehouse ledger, the corrected note schedule, and the new supplier terms. Then he asked who had designed the system. Reed nodded toward Ada. Ellery adjusted his cuffs. "Miss Pike, have you considered bookkeeping for other ranches?" "No." "You might earn well." "I am earning here." Reed looked down at the ledger to hide whatever that answer did to him. Ellery left with renewed terms and a better opinion of kitchen tables. By supper, the hands knew the bank had come to the cookhouse and left satisfied. That changed something subtle. Men who had respected Ada's food now respected the room where she kept the books. The cookhouse became the place Last Chance measured itself, honestly. One evening, weeks after the hearing, Ada stood outside the cookhouse watching the sun lower behind the north pasture. Reed came from the barn carrying a small crate. "For you," he said. She opened it. Inside were ledger books, good ones, bound, ruled, with clean paper and stiff covers. "That is a dangerous gift," she said. "I hoped so. Are you asking me to keep the ranch books?" "If you want the work, paid separate from cooking. And if I say no, then I will hire someone less frightening and suffer the consequences." She ran her fingers over the cover of the top ledger. "You trust me with your ranch. I trust you with the truth of it." Ada looked at him. The words settled deep. "Reed." "Yes?" "You should know that I do not intend to spend my life in a room behind a pantry unless I choose the room and the terms." "Good." "Good? I would hate for you to stay because the door was small." She looked away before he could see too much too soon. "And if I choose it?" His voice changed. "Then I would be grateful." "Grateful is not enough." "No." "Respect is a beginning. You have that. Partnership is better. You can have that too." "And if I ask for a share in the kitchen garden, poultry accounts, and supply savings?" Reed's mouth curved. "Now I know you are staying." "I have not said that." "No, but you began with accounts." She laughed, despite herself. They built the kitchen garden in spring. Ada planned rows for beans, onions, squash, herbs, and potatoes. Reed dug where she marked and learned not to question spacing unless invited. The men complained about weeding until Ada served the first stew with carrots from their own ground, after which complaints became less philosophical and more useful. She took over the books. Under her hand, Last Chance Ranch became a place where every sack was weighed, every credit posted, every repair signed, and every man knew that losing a receipt was more dangerous than losing a hat. Her romance with Reed grew in the same practical way. He brought her lamp oil when she worked late. She set aside the heel of bread because he liked it and pretended she did not know. He repaired the cookhouse floor after noticing where her step caught. She patched his coat without being asked and left the bill marked paid by clearing chimney.
One night, after a spring rain, they stood in the garden watching water darken the furrows. "This place should be renamed," Ada said. "To what?" "Something less tragic." "First chance?" "Too eager." "Second chance?" "Too sentimental." "Ada's arithmetic?" "Too accurate. Men would fear visiting." Reed turned toward her. "Ada Morgan?" The question was soft enough that it almost disappeared under the rain dripping from the eaves. She looked at him carefully. "That is a large revision. Only if accepted. You are asking in a garden because you know I am less likely to throw anything. I considered the pantry but feared the rolling pins." She smiled, then let the smile fade into honesty. "I will not marry into a ranch where my work becomes invisible." "It won't. You cannot promise that once and call it done. Then I will promise it badly every day and let you correct me." That was the right answer. Not smooth, better than smooth. "And the books?" she asked. "Shared." "The kitchen?" "Yours." "The ranch?" "Ours, if you want it." Ada looked toward the cookhouse, where lamplight warmed the windows and the smell of bread drifted into the wet air. She had arrived as another mouth. She had become the person who knew exactly what every mouth cost and why feeding them mattered anyway. "Yes," she said. Reed did not kiss her like a man claiming a victory. He took her hand first, waited, then stepped closer when she did. That mattered. Ada noticed everything that mattered. They married after summer roundup in the yard between the cookhouse and the ranch house because Ada said vows should be spoken where people actually lived. Toby cried and denied it. Mrs. Greer brought cake. Mr. Ellery sent a formal note of congratulations and, wisely, no advice. Years later, Last Chance Ranch became known for two things: cattle that brought fair prices and a table nobody left hungry. Travelers told stories about the owner, Mrs. Morgan, who could taste short-weight sugar in a pie and spot a false transport fee from across a room. Ranch hands sent new hires to her before the foreman. Suppliers learned to bring honest scales. Men who thought a cook was just a woman behind a stove left corrected and well-fed, which Ada considered the most civilized form of education. She kept the Queen of Diamonds from the pantry drawer pinned inside the first ledger, not because she believed in luck, because it reminded her of the day she arrived and heard a man say the ranch could not afford another mouth. He had been wrong in the way careless people often are. He had counted appetite, but not skill. He had counted cost, but not value. He had counted Ada Pike as if a woman alone with a carpet bag was an expense waiting to happen. Last Chance Ranch survived because she knew better. And because every meal, every ledger, every honest wait, and every shared silence with Reed Morgan proved the same thing. A place is not saved only by the people who ride its fences. Sometimes it is saved by the woman who knows exactly how much flour should be left in the barrel.